All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're live on the Trade Decorator Festival, and I'm joined by Pete Wilkinson. Pete is going to be doing a training session for you on pricing for decorators. I want to just show you around the Crowdcast platform for those of you that haven't yet joined us on any sessions. I can see some of you have found the chat box. Fine, comment, say hi, whatever you'd like to write in there, that's great. And we can read out some of those comments later. If you do have a specific question for Pete, because this session probably lasts about 40 minutes, as you're going along, if you can hit the ask a question box and type in the question that you'd like to ask. We will be taking questions at the end of the session, and the 3 best questions will all get a copy of one of Pete's books. So if you've got the pricing one, then Pete can sort out another one for you. Isn't that right, Pete?
That's exactly right.
Without any further delay, I'd like to welcome Pete to the session and let him take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm a little bit nervous, just so you know. I know I don't look it, but I am. I'm assuming, looking at the comments, that there's quite a few of you in here that I already know, so that's quite comforting. So if I do already know you, you might have heard some of the things I'm going to say, or you might not have done, so we'll have to see. I've decided to do this session in front of the whiteboard. So I just feel like I'm in a classroom, but obviously I can't see the pupils, which is a bit weird for me, I have to say. Right, okay, so first of all, I'll just explain what I'm going to look at in the session. So first of all, I'm just going to chat a little bit, just 5 minutes, don't worry about myself. So, you know, if you don't already know me, you know my background and where I'm coming from. Then I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about what the common pitfalls are that decorators make when it comes to pricing. And then after that, I'm actually going to talk about building up a price. I'm going to keep the maths to a minimum if I can, but just to give you an idea of how you would build up a price. And I'm going to talk about cost price and market price and profit. Okay, right. So first of all, who am I? So my name's Pete, and I've been a decorator all my life, and I'm 55. I started decorating when I left school. I worked for a local company in Preston. Served my time. I was lucky really in that the company that I worked for did all elements of decorating. So I worked on big jobs, schools, hospitals, things like that. And also small domestic jobs, so redecorating a bedroom or a lounge or a bathroom or something like that. So I'm lucky really in that I had a full range of work that I worked on. And I worked there till I was in my early 20s, and then I went on my own. I was self-employed in my early 20s. Pretty naive back then. I had no idea how to price. And so a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about this afternoon, it's from personal experience. I've done it myself. I've been there, got the T-shirt, and I know that it doesn't work, basically. So a lot of it's from personal experience. When I was 27, I applied for a job at the local college as a lecturer, actually teaching sign making, and I got the job. It was just a temporary position for 1 year. But anyway, I ended up, I've been there I was there for over 20 years, 27 years. Then about 5 years ago, I decided to go part-time from college because I wanted a bit of a change, really. I think everybody thought I were a bit mad when I did that. And I went back on the tools because I love decorating. I still love it, and I've been doing it all those years. I went back on the tools, but I always decided that if I ever went back on the tools, I would just spray everything because it made complete sense to me. It was faster, the finish was better, and that's the decision I made. And I didn't realise it at the time, but it was a little bit unusual in this country back then. And one of the things I realised once I started spraying everything, that if I carried on pricing in the way that I'd always priced, that I was basically going to turn out 5 times more work and earn basically the same money that I was earning before. So it made the spraying element a little bit pointless. So I had to, this time round, I had to really get my head around the pricing. And it's interesting, really, because last time I worked for myself, when I was in my early 20s, I actually really needed the money. So I had a mortgage, I had kids, I was sort of under quite a lot of financial pressure, and I had no idea how to price back then. This time round, I don't need the money quite as much. I'm a little bit older, all my kids have grown up. And then I've got my head around it. It's sort of the wrong way around, really. But there you go. It's typical. Welcome to my world. Right. Okay. So that's me. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about. So you're a decorator. You work for a company. They pay you every week. You don't have to worry about getting the work. You don't have to worry about getting paid. You get paid holiday pay when you go on holiday. You get paid sick pay, although it's not very much, if you're off sick. So why on earth would you leave that security to go and work for yourself? And I think there's 2 or 3 reasons why we all do it. And I've chatted to a lot of decorators about this, so I've got a pretty good idea of why people do it. And I think the first reason we do it is for more money. We want to earn more money than we're earning working for the company that we're working for. And I would say, if we're all honest, that is the number one reason. You look at the pay packet at the end of the week, you know that your boss is taking a cut, you know there's profits involved, and you're only seeing your sort of part of it, and you want more. So that's one reason, the main reason, I would say. So I'm going to come back to that. The second reason you do it is, I think, that you want more freedom to work when you want, do the kind of work you want, and actually have control over your working life. Now, for me, the second time round, that is the main reason why I left college, basically. I just wanted more control. I was a bit tired of college taking on a new principal and then restructuring everything and just changing my work world just out of my control. It was doing me head in. So that's freedom and control is one of the main reasons for me. And finally, that's it. There is no finally. More control is the final thing. So you want more money, you want more freedom, and you want a little bit more control over what you do. Okay, so we'll bear those in mind. In fact, I'm going to write them on the whiteboard, because if I'm writing on the whiteboard, it's because I'm feeling a bit nervous. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so we want more money than our old job. We also want freedom and control. Okay, so I'll go back to that in a bit. Okay, so you make the decision, you're handing your notice, you've got a few jobs lined up in the background because you've been doing some foreigners at the weekend and stuff. So you're happy that you've got enough work to keep you going. They're mainly like your mum, your grandma, your mate's mate, and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, they've agreed to your price, and it's the work sat there waiting for you. You're handing your notice. Your boss wishes you luck or not, depending on what your boss is like. And then that's it. Friday, you finish your job. Monday, you're on your own. Now, it's pretty exciting at first because you've not got anybody telling you what to do. You can get up when you want and go to job when you want, within reason, I suppose. And you can have a brew when you want, your dinner when you want. It's amazing. Okay. But what happens in them first few months is you fall into some common traps that decorators that are setting up on their own fall into. And there's a lot of traps, but I'm just going to focus on 5. Okay. Now, the first trap that we all fall into, we assume that our decorating skill is the most important thing to our business. And it takes quite a while before you realize that it isn't. Now, obviously, it is important that you're good at the job, and it is important that the work's to a high standard. But when it comes to business, it's not the most important thing. And you quite quickly come to realize that the most important thing in actually being able to price the work correctly. So what do? You ask your mates, you say to your decorating mates, I'm pricing this job, how do I do it? And your mates, who by the way haven't got a clue because they're probably not in business, but your mates say, tell you what you do, Pete, you have a look at the job, you guess how long it takes, and then you multiply that by a day rate. So I'm going to write this on the board. Try not to turn me back too often. Okay, so number one pitfall is guessing the price, which is basically what you're doing. Now, there's a few things about this. First of all, as people are rubbish at guessing how long things take, not just decorating, but anything. So, you know, if you say to someone, I'm going to go and mow the lawn, how long do you reckon it'll take me? I would probably say 10 minutes. Whereas in actual fact, probably take me an hour. Get the mower out, do the mowing, clean it all up, tidy up. I'm never going to do it in 10 minutes. But human nature is you underestimate the length of time any task is going to take. Now, all right, in fairness, with decorating, because you're doing it over and over and over again, you do get better at guessing as you get older. But you generally will underestimate the length of time a job will take. And we've all done it. So actually guessing how long it's going to take is not a great strategy. The other thing about it is if it's a 3-day job, you're probably going to guess reasonably accurate. It might take you 4 days, it might take you 2.5 days, but you're not going to be so far off. If it's a 3-month job, you've got no chance. You are never going to guess how long a 3-month job is going to take. I would say it's not so far off. Impossible. So that's no good. So they're guessing the price. Okay. And then the other element of the guessing thing is multiplying it by the day rate. The legendary day rate that we all work to. I do wonder where it comes from, this day rate that we get given. Day rate is for people who are employed or subcontracting to a builder who are effectively employed. If you're running your own business, you need to get away from day rate. Now, I know it's simple just to guess how long and multiply it by £120, but it's no good as a way of pricing. No other business prices anything that way. So that's the first pitfall. Okay, so I'm not going on too much about that. Just to readjust my microphone and have a drink of water. Second pitfall is dropping the price for no reason. Okay, so what does that mean? That means I go to look at a job, I price it up. So Mrs. Jones is there. She goes, right, okay, Pete, what I want you to do, I want you to redecorate my lounge. And I look at it. Now, I would never give a price just off the cuff. I would, well, personally, obviously, I would measure it up and go away and work it out. But I would say, okay, Mrs. Jones, I will go away and I will work out a price for you, which you do. And let's say, for the sake of argument, it's £450. So I ring her up, Mrs. Jones, say, hi, Mrs. Jones, it's Pete. I've worked out the price of the job, £450. £450, that's more than I was expecting to pay. Okay, then. Could you do it for less? So I've got a few choices here. I can say, no, 450 is my price. Go away and think about it. That, incidentally, is what I would say. Or I could say, I can drop the price, but we'll have to alter the spec. So, for example, I've priced for 2 coats of satin on the woodwork, 2 coats of emulsion on the walls, and 2 coats of emulsion on the ceiling. If you want it for less money, I can maybe put 1 coat on the walls, or I can use a cheaper brand of paint, or I can alter the spec. Now, again, I wouldn't do that personally. I just think it's going to make you look bad. But if you drop the price and alter the spec, at least you're sticking to your guns price-wise. And then your third option is you just say, yeah, all right, I'll do it for $350, and you get the job. Okay. So you think the customer's over the moon because they've just knocked £100 off your job. You're sort of over the moon because you've got the job, which for some reason we all want. But what happens is you do the job, and Mrs. Jones is over the moon, and then the next couple of weeks later, you get a phone call, and they say, "Oh, hi, Pete. This is Julie. You did some work for my friend, Mrs. Jones." Don't quite know why Julie's calling her friend Mrs. Jones, but anyway, will you come and price my lounge? Oh, all right, then I will do, no problem. So I go to Julie's house, and I go and price her lounge, and I say, it's $450. And she says, well, when you did the work for Mrs. Jones, you knocked the price down, so I want you to knock the price down. So what am I going to say? It puts good on Mrs. Jones. It puts, it basically it puts you a little bit like, you can't say, well, I never drop price, because she knows damn well you have. You did it for a mate. So what do? So you're back to square one, sort of making that decision. Now the thing is, what I didn't, and I've been in this position, so this is me talking from experience. And what I found was, and I didn't realize it at the time, but if you've got some customers are price sensitive, and if you've got so Mrs. Jones is price sensitive customer, she's not interested how good of a decorator I am. She's not interested that I'll turn up on time and that I'm honest and I won't rob her house and all these kinds of things. All she's interested in is the price. So she's what I call a cheapskate customer. Now, what I've found is that cheapskate customers have got loads of cheapskate friends. So once you work for one cheapskate customer and drop your price, you'll get inundated with other cheapskate customers. Now, the thing is, it might feel good to have lots and lots of work, but if all that work is for cheapskate customers, you're just going to end up working for nothing. You may as well just go back and work for your old firm. So you've got to be really careful, I think, not to drop your price for no reason. So that's the second common pitfall that decorators fall into. Okay, now the third one, and this links really with the second one. Working for anyone. So what that means is you've just set up on your own. You're looking for work. You're looking for customers. So what you do is, without realizing it, you'll just work for anyone. Phone rings, customer, you'll work for them. Phone rings, customer, you'll work for them. So you just work for anyone. Now you might be thinking, what is Pete going on about? Obviously you work for anyone because you need the work. I mean, you just work for anyone. But businesses don't do that. Other businesses don't do that. What you've got to decide what you're offering the customer and what kind of customers you want to build up. So if you want to just build up a load of small cheapskate customers, then at least do it knowing that's what your strategy is. But if you want to build up a nice solid business that you're going to enjoy working in, that's going to pay you a good income, then you need to start being a little bit pickier with your customers. Now, I don't mean being picky in an horrible way. I'll give you an example. So, when I left college and set back up on my own again, I decided that I was going to specialise in spraying. So obviously I'm a decorator. I've been teaching decorator all my life. I can wallpaper, I can sign write, I can grain and marble, I can paint, I can basically do the full range of decorating work. So any phone call that I get, Pete, can you grain my garage door? I could actually do that, but I don't. So if somebody rings up and says, Pete, can you grain my garage door? I pass it on to a mate of mine who's brilliant at graining and marbling, and he does it. So I said, no, I don't do that kind of work, but I have a friend who does. Here's his number. Come. So if they ring me up and they say, I've got some wallpapering to do, I've got 35 flats that need wallpapering, I say, I don't do that kind of work, but I know a friend who does, and I pass that on to them. But if they ring me up and say, I've got 4 new build houses that all want spraying out, that's my kind of work. So yeah, I'm interested. So I say, yeah, that is my kind of work. So they've passed that first sort of checkpoint, because I do not just take on any customer. If I take a customer on, I want to work for that person, well, theoretically forever. So I want them to be a really good fit. I want to enjoy working for them, and I want them to enjoy having me working for them, and I want them to pay me, and I want them to pay me on time, and all those kinds of things. So that's the first sort of checkpoint that I have, the kind of work. So, okay, so it's spraying work, I'm happy, great. So the next checkpoint for me is, are they going to pay what I'm looking for? Now, I would actually I would test them on that. So I would say, what kind of money are you looking at spending on respraying a house? Now, if they come back with a really low figure, I was thinking on, paying £300. Now, obviously, I would just say, well, I'm going to be more expensive than that. And I would just end the conversation at that point, because there's just no point me going to the job, pricing it up, because they're not in my ballpark at all. There's just no point. It's a waste of my time, waste of their time. But if they came back with a sensible amount, I'd say, that's fine, no problem. The next thing I would do is, I want a deposit. So I'd say, listen, if I'm going to work for you, I want a deposit. Now, I don't ask for a lot. I know some people that ask for more, some people that ask for less. I typically ask for 20% deposit. Now, if they won't pay me 20% deposit, then I don't work for them. It's as simple as that. But if they will pay me 20% deposit, then they've more or less got me to go and have a look at the job. I go and have a look, I give them a price, and then I will probably end up working for them. But basically, I've got a few sort of questions that they've got to get through. They're selecting me as a contractor, but I'm also selecting them as a customer. And I know what I'm looking for in a customer, and I know what I offer as a contractor. So if they meet all the criteria and we get there and they pay the deposit and I do the work, and then happy days. And generally what that leads to is it leads to a really good customer. And what I've found is really good customers have got good customer friends. So then it leads to more and more work. And you get to the stage, and I mean, I got to the stage quite quickly where I basically weren't taking on any new clients. So I get a phone call from Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Smith would say, Pete, I want you to come and, this actually happened, this is a real story. I want you to come and spray some doors. So it's exactly my kind of work. And I just said, look, I'm really sorry, Mrs. Smith. I didn't actually. I said, where did you get my number? And she said, I just got it off the internet, got it off your website. And I said, look, I'm really sorry, Mrs. Smith, but at the moment, I'm not taking on any new clients. And she wasn't happy about it for some reason, but I'm not, because I've got enough work with the customers I've got, and I'm happy with that. So that's it. So that's the number 3 pitfall, working for anyone. Let's just have a look at my crib sheet here. Right, the next pitfall that we all fall into. Assuming that all customers want a cheap price. So you talk to people, I talk to lots of people about pricing and decorating, and the assumption in the background is always, well, obviously, Pete, everybody wants a cheap price. Everybody wants a cheap price. That's why I go in as keen as I can with my price. Everybody wants a cheap price. Okay, let's think about this for a minute. Does everybody really want a cheap price? Now, I was thinking about this morning as I was, obviously, I didn't just prepare this morning. I prepared it for weeks and weeks of preparation, but I was just revisiting the notes this morning, and I was giving it some thought. And I thought about cars. And I Googled it. Now, I hope I don't offend anyone here. I'm not intended to, but the cheapest car out there, apparently, is a Dacia Sandero. Dacia Sandero. Now, I don't know anybody that drives a Dacia Sandero. I'm sure they're a fantastic car, but I don't know anybody. Everybody I know drives a BMW, an Audi, maybe a Ford, Volkswagen. None of these cars are the cheapest cars on the market. Okay, so what's that telling you? It's telling you that when you buy a car, you want more. You want a good price. You want it to be good value, but you don't want it to be the cheapest car. You want it to be reliable. You want it to be good fuel consumption. You want it to have a resale value. You want lots and lots of things as well as the price. Okay, very rarely do any of us buy anything for the cheapest price. I mean, coffee is another example. You'll go into Costa Coffee and you'll pay 20 times the value of a cup of coffee rather than make it yourself. No problem at all. You don't go in and say, how much for a cup of coffee? I'm not paying £5. You're joking. I'll go and make my own. You don't do it because that's not what people are like in this country. And it's the same with decorating. But what people will do is they'll try and get the best price out of you. So basically, if you're having a conversation with a customer about price, usually they want you. They want you to do the work. They just want you to do the work for as little as possible. So if you stand by your guns and say, look, I want to do the work for you, but this is my price. I am not going to drop it. I know that you want a good job. You want someone that's reliable. You want someone that's, you want lots of other things than just price. So that's another pitfall that I think we all fall into as decorators. We assume that the customer wants the cheapest price possible. Okay. This bit, incidentally, we're only meant to take 10 minutes, but not to worry. Okay, so the last pitfall that we all fall into, and just for the hell of it, I'm going to change the colour of my pen. I've only got a little bit of space left. I'm going to have to wipe this off in a minute. The last thing that we do this is the most important thing of the whole training session. So if you forgot all about Mrs. Jones and all about picking your customers and all that, this is the thing I want you to go away with. This is the thing you need to remember. So when you're telling your mates, I went on this webinar with Pete on trade decorators, and it were a bit rough around the edges, but I'll tell you what, he said one thing that were really important, and this is it. This is what I want you to remember. Don't charge cost price for what you do. Charge the market price for what you do. So I'll just move out of the way so we can see it. There you go. Look at that. There you go. I might even wipe everything off and rewrite that on in a minute. What does that actually mean? Let me explain. I had some students on our intensive spraying course a couple of weeks ago, and they actually make Evoques. Okay, so the Range Rover Evoque, that's what they make. Now, how much are the Evoques? 35 grand, 40 grand? I don't know. And they told me, now I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a bloody good story anyway. It costs 3 grand to make an Evoque. 3 grand. But they sell them for 40. Now, I know that's shocking, but that's business. And all businesses do this. What do we do as decorators? I'll tell you what we do. We work out what we want for a wage a year. We divide that by the number of hours we're going to work. And it comes to, let's say, £15 an hour, £120 a day, say. We guess how long the job's going to take, let's say 5 days. We multiply 5 by 120, which gives us 600 quid. We put the materials on top, and that's the price we give the customer. So that's a little bit like buying an Evoque for 3 grand. Now, it's no good. It's no good giving the customer the cost price. You have got to make a profit on top of what you charge. Now, I know it's more complicated than this because I think about these things a lot, but in a nutshell, that's it. Now, with any job, there's a cost price and there's a market price. So I'll give you a few examples actually. So another example, so for example, painting, let's say a 4-bed detached house, brand new, bare plaster, bare wood, you're giving a price to paint it. Okay. Now, the cost price for doing that, if you just pay yourself wages and buy the paint, might be, let's say 2 weeks. I'm just making this up as I go along. 2 weeks, so 1,200 quid plus paint, let's say 300 quid. So £1,500 is the cost price for doing the decorating. Right. The market price will vary from area to area and depending on how much work there is and what's going on. But the market price might be £2,000. So the market price is £2,000. The cost price is 1,500. So you need to know what the market price for what you're doing is. And once you know that, that's the price you're going in at. So you're making £500 profit, basically. Well, you're not really because you've got overheads and things like that. But anyway, let's just keep it simple for now. Okay. Now, if you're really, really slow at decorating because you've only just started, let's say you're 20, you've just come out your time, you're still getting your speed up, you might struggle actually to make money from the market price because you're a little bit slow. But as you get more and more better and better at what you do and more efficient, your cost price will come down and down and down, and the market price, well, theoretically, will stay the same. So that amount of money that you're making is growing and growing and growing. But if you just give the customer the cost price for your work, then you're never ever going to make that little bit of extra profit that you need to develop your business. Okay, right. So I'll give you another example. Before I do, I'm just going to wipe all this off. Okay, and I'll just write that back on again. All right. Okay, so just to recap, do not charge. Well, you can obviously do what the bloody hell you like. If you want to charge cost price, you can. But you're never going to develop your business if you're selling everything at cost price. And no other business does that. Okay, I'll give you another example. This is the example that I use in my book, and it's key cutting. And it's a good example because it's something that we can all relate to. We've all had a key cut, and we all roughly know how much they are to be cut. But we don't really know what the costs involved are. And I can tell you, to get a key cut, typically, you pay about a fiver. A fiver is what you're prepared to pay. What are the costs? The key cutting machines are cheap as chips, I can tell you. You can pick them up for a couple of £100. The blanks are less than a penny to buy. If you buy them in bulk, less than a penny. I know you don't need all different blanks, but that's how much they cost. Time, it takes hardly any time to cut a key. A minute, let's say. It takes a minute. So even in labour costs, you're looking at pence rather than pounds. Now, if the key cutter was a decorator, he'd be selling his keys for like 50p. So come and get your key cut, cost me 50p, there you have it for 50p. But they don't do that, you see. They charge a fiver. So it costs them 50p, they make £4.50. Now, I know it seems scandalous that they're making all this money, and maybe that explains why they're driving a Porsche and we're not, but that's what they do. Now, what do they spend that extra money on? Well, they spend it obviously on the premises. They spend it on developing more sort of key cutting buildings up and down the country. They're recruiting staff, giving staff training. They spend it on developing their business so that down the line, in 20 years' time, they've got this key cutting business that's making a fortune, and they can then sell it on the open market and retire. So that's why they don't sell the keys for 50p, and that's why we have got to stop doing that as decorators. And I do think it's one of the main ways that we go wrong. And I've thought a lot about this, and I think, in fairness, and I mean, I would say this because I'm a decorator, I think decorators are a good bunch. I think we're nice to people. We're fairly humble, really. We enjoy doing the work we do. We like giving a good job, and we like getting a good finish. But we're a little bit soft when it comes to charging. We're a little bit embarrassed about charging more money. Electricians aren't. I mean, they'll smash a hole in your wall with an hammer, stick a socket in it, charge 100 quid, walk away happy as Larry. They're not bothered. But for some reason, us as decorators, we're probably a little bit too nice. So I think we need to change that. I think we need to, I'm not saying rip people off, but I do think we need to be a little bit more business-like when it comes to charging, especially the smaller businesses. You're working for yourself, or you've just you and an apprentice, that kind of thing. I think we need to be a little bit more savvy, basically. Okay, so it's nearly 22, so I've got a little bit more to talk about, but not a lot, really. I've covered quite a lot of ground there. Has anyone got any questions before I go on? Just to see if you're awake, or if there's still anybody out there. You can type it in the little box. I'll wait. Okay, well, I've got, wait a minute. Oh, wow. So I've got 3 anyway. So that's good. I'll carry on for 3. That's good. 4 even. Wow, brilliant. Andy's heard it all before. He's saying, oh my God, Pete's going on and on again about all that. All right, that's good. So I'll carry on now. So I have a little bit more to do. Let's have a look where I just lost my thing. What a sec. Right, I just want to remind you why you left your original firm to set up on your own. You wanted more money than your original job. So let's just talk about cost price for a moment. Okay, so what I want you to do, this is a little exercise for you. After this is over, go away and work this out. I want you to work out, basically, how much you need to charge per hour to earn slightly more than you earned at your old company. Okay. Now, for this exercise, I'll just get my other notes. There you go, took weeks this. I'm going to make some assumptions, and I'll write the assumptions on the board. So first of all, I'm going to assume that at your old firm, you were on $11.60 an hour, which is typically what your bigger contractors, Bells and things like that. All right, Ryan's got a question. I'll come back to that in a minute, Ryan. Good question. So you typically be earning roughly about 24.5 grand a year if you work for Novus. That's how much you would earn. But you would also get holiday pay, and you would also get sick pay. Okay, so that's typically what you were earning before you went on your own. Okay, let's now work out how many hours a year you roughly work. Now, this is a bit of a high figure, really, that I'm using, but I've just basically multiplied 40 hours a week by, I think I multiplied it by about 50. I wanted all round figures, and it come to 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours a year. That's roughly what you're going to work. Now, really, you want to be using a lower figure than that, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use this figure.
Hi guys, we are still here. I'm not sure what's happened with the live feed. As soon as I can get Pete back on screen, I will carry on with you. I am really sorry. I have no idea why it froze. I am still here. I'm really, really sorry. I'm going to actually call Pete and see if we can get him back on the line because there's a problem at his end, I think. Pete, hi Pete, it's Paula. We lost you in the session. The session froze. Can you refresh your browser and I'll bring you back on the screen?
Oh, is that what? Right, just refresh. Just a minute. All right, accept and join.
Okay, brilliant. And I'll bring you back in.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm back.
I am so sorry, Pete. I have no idea what happened there, but I'll put you back on the screen and you can take up from where you left off. I'm sorry, everybody.
This is
modern technology, eh?
Right, hi everyone. No, I'm not going to start again. Don't worry. I'm not starting again. Right, okay. So let me just remind myself where I'm up to. £15 per hour. Okay, so £15 per hour is not what we're charging. It's just what we need to basically pay our wages. Okay. Now, there's other costs, of course. So we've got what are called overheads. So you've got your van, your accountant, PPE, your sprayer, your dustless sander, all these kind of things. You've got all these overheads. And these have got to be added into the cost price. So I just made an assumption of £5,000 a year for your overheads. It could be more. It depends on how you run your business. I'm going to use that, and that's an extra £2.50. So you want £17.50 an hour minimum. And then you've got your materials on top of that. Okay. Right, now then. If you want to get away from guessing, this is the last calculation I'm going to show you, but I'm going to use these figures in the calculation, well, in the example anyway. What you need to do, every job you do, time yourself. Every job. So time yourself from 8 o'clock in the morning till whenever you finish, 5 o'clock at night, time how long everything takes, how long does it take to emulsion a ceiling 2 coats with prep, how long does it take to undercoat a door, how long does it take to paint a window. Just keep timing yourself. Don't rush. You're not trying to break any records. You just want a realistic time of how long things actually take. Now, it sounds like a pain in the arse doing this, but it actually is really, really easy. And after a while, you do it automatically. I'm constantly timing myself with jobs, especially with spraying, because obviously what I'll do a lot of times is I'll actually brush something and then spray something. So I'll brush it and then I'll mask it in the next window, I'll mask it and spray it and compare the two. And I do a lot of that kind of thing, just basically because they're great figures to quote when I'm in class. And incidentally, the spray one is always miles faster than you think it's going to be, even with the masking. So time yourself. So I've got an example. So we've got a ceiling, and it's 6 meters by 4 meters, this ceiling, which conveniently is 20 meters. No, it's not. It's 24 meters. Oh, no, we can't see that pen, apparently. So we've got a 24 meter square ceiling. Okay. Now, I've actually worked out that would take approximately, well, 4 litres of paint, actually, because typically a litre of paint covers 12 square metres. So 24 square metres will be 2 litres. 2 coats will be 4 litres. Obviously, you're not going to buy 4 litres. You're going to buy 5 litres. So that's, let's say, roughly 30 quid. Okay. I've timed myself on this ceiling, and prep and 2 coats, it took me a morning. So it took me 4 hours to do this ceiling. So labour is 4 times £17.50, which I've got to £70, conveniently again. So the ceiling, the cost price of the ceiling is £100. And we know it's 24 square meters. So we can basically work out how much per meter we should charge for that ceiling. And it works out at just over £4 a square meter. Okay. Now, again, I know all the arguments for this, and I know it's complicated. It depends how much prep. It depends how big the room is. It depends how much work there is, and blah, 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 blah. But it's just a simple method of working out price, basically. Now then, I now know that if somebody asked me to just paint a ceiling, which is unlikely, I know, right, Pete, I want you to paint a ceiling. And I measure it up, and it's 24 square meters. Okay. And I know I should be charging over £4 per square metre. Now, if it's a builder and he says to me, I've got this ceiling for you, Pete, it's 24 square metres, I want you to paint it, prep it, paint it, 2 coats, I'll pay you £3.50 a metre for that. I know I can't take the job on, because at £3.50, I'm losing money. It's less than my cost price. So you just say, look, I'm thanks, builder. I really appreciate all this work you're offering me for nothing, but I can't do it because I just can't afford to do it. It's as simple as that. It's below my cost price. So basically, you would have to go in at over £4. I think the price is £4.16. So you need to go in at over £4.16. So you want to be going in at £5 or £6 or £7 or £8. Now, I've talked to a lot of decorators, and the average is around about £6 a metre for that particular type of work. So you can see at £6, that's the market price, you've got some profit, because the cost price is £4.15 and the market price is £6. That's your profit there. Now, what some do is they just put a percentage profit on. So they'll say, my cost price is £4.15. I'm going to put 20% on for profit. But personally, I don't do that, because it varies. It depends. It depends how fast you can do it. It depends on lots and lots and lots of factors. It's too complicated, I personally think. I just try and find what the typical average market price is for the kind of work I'm doing, and that's what I charge. Now, Ryan earlier asked an excellent question, which I'm regularly asked. And the question is, if you're pricing for spraying, do you price differently than you price for brush and rolling? Okay, so this is a good question. Right, so if you look at the advantages of spraying, there's basically 2. The first advantage is, so just talking about woodwork for now, although it applies to everything, but let's just woodwork. The first advantage of spraying woodwork is the finish is amazing. So I can say to a customer, I can spray your woodwork and you'll get an amazing finish. And for that, I'm not going to charge you any more than a standard decorator. Oh my God, Pete, that's amazing. It is amazing. Because I could charge more because it's a better finish. But I have decided I'm not going in. I'm just going to charge the market price. Okay. Happy days. But the other advantage of spraying is it's faster. But the speed benefit is my benefit. I get that benefit. So typically, if you look at the woodwork in a new 5-bed house, let's say, it will probably take you a day a coat to brush it. It would take me an hour a coat to spray it. And I've got the prep and everything and all that, but that's a constant with both approaches. So I typically can be making between 4, well, let's just say 4 times more money because of the speed. Now, the speed benefit I sort of spend in various ways. I personally tend to spend it, and I spend a bit more time on prep. I have a bit more of a relaxed day. I start later, I finish earlier, all those kinds of things. Now, the customer might say, hang on a minute, Pete, I'm not happy about this. You're going 4 times faster than everybody else. I don't think I'm happy with that you're making money. But what they don't see in the background is that I've spent thousands of pounds on equipment, thousands of pounds on a sprayer, thousands of pounds on dustless sanding, all that equipment in the background I've spent money on. Plus, I've spent a lot of time perfecting the skill so that I can go in and I can spray the woodwork to an amazing thing. They watch me, it looks really easy. It's like watching a bricklayer and you think, yeah, I can do that. And then when you try, you realise you can't. And all those things that are in the background have got value. It's not just about how long something takes. And I think on a final note, I think in this country, we've got a problem with people making money for some reason. I don't know what it is. We sort of get annoyed if someone's making more money than we are. And we try and drag them down. And it's like, it's just not right and blah, blah, blah. And they don't do that in other countries. It's a British thing. It's like British Reserve, I think. I don't know. We've all got to pretend that. I don't know. But it's no good. We need to get away from it. So anyway, I hope that answers you. I went up proper off tack there. I hope that answers your question, Ryan. I basically charge the same as I would by brush and roller, but I do it quicker. So I use all the same sort of rates per hour that the decorators use. I use the same rates. And I could use more. I know sprayers that do charge more, quite a bit more. But me personally, I've made the decision not to. So that's, again, another personal decision that you make about what you want from your business. Okay, I've got 5 minutes left. Has anybody got any questions before I go? I don't want you to say the best bit is when the screen went off. Okay, no questions. That's fine.
Right, have we got any questions here for Pete? We've got 3 copies of Pete's book to give away for the best questions.
Oh yeah, best questions.
I think we do have a question.
The pricing book, what? Which I'm assuming some of you have already read. We've got this. My systems book. This is my favourite cover, by the way, everyone. I like that cover. And this is my original book that I wrote 4 years ago.
Okay, Pete,
I've got a good question. Go on.
I've got a question for you from Thomas. He says, how would you charge if the customer wanted extra work on a job? Would you add a new quote to the job or alter the original quote?
That's a good question. I think that is actually worth a book, because that is a really good question. Personally, I would price the additional work as an additional thing. Because what can happen if you're not careful, you'll say, oh, I've finished the work now. And they go, no, you haven't. We're not paying you until you've done that additional thing. Now, I can turn around and say, no, I priced that separately. So I finished the work we originally quoted for. I finished it, pay me. And then that extra work is an extra £500. And when I finish that, you pay me £500. So I would separate it out.
That sounds like really good advice, Pete. You're not going to get into any sticky situations of having to wait around for your money, are you, if you do it that way?
Exactly.
So any more questions here for Pete? We've got the last few minutes left, and I'm sure you'd all love to get your hands on a copy of Pete's book.
No, quite. You could ask me anything. You could say, "What did you have for your tea last night?" Maybe not. Oh, don't ask me that. What else could you ask me?
If you would actually like to come up rather than type your question in, if you would actually like to come up on screen, if you want to say, hi, I'll come and talk to Pete, or I'll come up and type it in the comments and I'll bring you up on the screen and then you can come and ask Pete directly.
Oh, there's some questions in the question thing here, apparently.
Have we? As people writing in the questions thing instead of in...
What would you say is the best material to spray kitchen doors? That's a good question. Right. Oh, now then. Oh, gosh, heck. I've got to answer this. Right. Okay. So, well, there's a couple of products that I would use for that. So one product is a decorative paint, and that will be Decorator Helmi 30, which is a kitchen and furniture paint. It sprays lovely, it brushes lovely. So that's that. And then a more of an industrial paint really is a company called Renner, which is available from Symphony Coatings, and that's what your big kitchen manufacturers use to spray their kitchens in the factory before it comes out to your house. So that's available to us as decorators as well. So there's two options there for your kitchens.
Okay. Mark Macaulay says he's got all of your books and he's still to start your new book that you've kindly sent him. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. So Mark Rigby's asked a question, hasn't he? Yeah. What about variables? Right. Okay. So that's a good question, that, Mark. So obviously, real pricing is more complicated than I've made it out to be here. There are lots and lots of variables. So you alter your rate accordingly. So if my rate for painting ceilings is £6 a metre, okay, and let's say, let's pick a variable. The room's full of furniture and they ain't moving it. You've got to move it. Now, okay, you could charge extra for that. That could be one way of handling that. You could say, no problem, I'll move your furniture. That's an extra 50 quid. Or you could just up your rate for your ceiling. So you could, in a situation where the ceiling is difficult to access, you could maybe charge £8.50 and charge it and vary it like that. So, and just building your variables to your rate, so you're altering it by a percentage. So, for example, another good example would be you've got a ceiling and you charge typically £6, but it needs a lot of prep. It's in a bit of a state. So for that situation, you might increase it by 30%. So you'll have decisions that you make about how you increase or decrease your rate. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, and we've got a question from Mark Macaulay. He says, I struggle with staircases, measuring up for papering. We touched on some time ago via email, Pete. Can you help here or point me to videos, please?
Right, staircases and wallpaper. Okay, so the way I would price for wallpaper, this is I'm out of my comfort zone here, Mark, but I'm going to give it a go. I'll give it a go and answer your question. I would price per roll, okay? And the average that people are charging per roll is between, I'll just answer another question while I'm talking, 25 and £40 a roll. And that's typically what people charge for wallpapering. And on average, you can put 8 rolls a day on. So, you can do the maths there. So if you're on £40 a roll, you're earning quite a good money. So for staircases, you might decide between that range of 25 to 40, you might go in at the higher end. So you might, because it's a staircase, it's trickier to do. You could maybe go in at 30 rather than 25. So that's how I'd keep it simple as that. I just measure up how many rolls a staircase takes and multiply it by my roll rate for labour. Obviously, the materials with wallpaper is extra because that could be quite a lot of money if it's £150 a roll. Hopefully that answers your question. And Kevin's asked about Renner. So he uses a PU from Morel's. You see, I tend to avoid any paints that kill you if you've not got an earth head mask on. So one of the good things about Renner is it's an Italian company. It's an amazing product, but it's water-based and it's safe. So you don't have to be in a booth, you don't have to wear a Fed mask or anything like that. And I think a lot of guys are spraying kitchens in people's houses with 2-pack, and it's quite a dangerous thing to do, because 2-pack paints gas off isocyanides for a couple of weeks after you've sprayed the kitchen. So when you've gone and you've been paid, you're killing the kids and the dog. So I don't think that's a good thing personally. So that's why I like the Renner. Yeah, it's about if you're at workshop, Kevin. Just make sure you've got good ventilation.
Okay.
Some good questions there, Paula. You'll have to pick 3 and let me know what they want.
Okay. Do you want to give me 3 winners, Pete?
Oh, 3 winners. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to pick 3 winners? Which are the best questions?
Oh, heck. Oh, I can't remember what they were now. I'm all of a tizzy. What was that first question that I said were a good one?
The first one we had from Ryan was how to charge for spraying rather than brush and roller.
Okay.
Then we had, let me see. So that's where we went off. What would you say is the best material to spray kitchen doors?
Yeah, so that's a good one. They can have a book.
That one. Okay, so that's Kevin Robbins. A book coming to you. Mark Rigby, what about variables? Mark McCauley said about staircases. He's got all your books.
Yeah, the staircase question, that were a good one. So I've got some books that obviously people don't know are out there. So if those 3 people want to pick a book, and if they say they've got all 3, that's amazing. I'll send them something.
All right. Thomas said, I think Thomas asked, how would you charge if the customer wanted extra work on a job? Would you add?
That's a good question.
That was
the best question of the day.
Yes.
He can have 2 books. He can. If he's not got any, he can have 2.
Okay. So we've got Kevin Robbins, Thomas, and who was the other one?
Oh, I can't keep up. Mark Rigby.
Was it Mark?
Yeah.
We've got more questions coming in now. They all want a book.
It's gone now. The window's gone now. It's too late. Don't ask questions now. I'm giving 2 books away. Too late. It's 2 o'clock. Paula's only paying me till 2 o'clock.
Mark said he's got all your books, Pete.
He's got them all. He hasn't. I'll send him one he's not got.
All right. Mark, he said he'll send you one you've not got. Okay. Do you want to take this last question? It says, what's a reasonable percentage profit on materials?
Oh, that's a good question. Percentage profit on materials. Okay. Right. It depends what you get your materials at. So if you're just like a one-man band, you don't spend a lot of money with your supplier, you're basically only going to get the materials at a very, very small discount. So I personally, if I was in that position, I wouldn't put anything on the materials. If you're a bigger contractor and you're spending 40 or 50,000 pounds with the supplier, then you may get 60% discount on your materials. Then obviously I would get that off the customer. I'd charge the customer the retail price and I would pay 60% discount. I would keep the 60%. So your bell groups and things like that, they get 80% discount on their paint. That's massive. So it depends what you get it for. If you get it for just a normal price, then I don't think you can put anything on. But if you get it at a discounted price, I would get the discount. I'd get that amount off the customer without letting them know, obviously.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that brings us to the end of all our questions. So our winners are Kevin Robbins, Thomas, and Mark Rigby. Okay. I am going to bob you my email address in the bottom of here, and if you can send me your addresses, then I can send them through to Pete, and we can get those books out to you.
Perfect. Yeah, it's brilliant. Right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for joining us. Okay. And thanks, everybody, for being in the session.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.